Welcome to Adulting on the Spectrum. I'm Andrew Komarow, an autistic certified financial planner. I co-run Adulting on the Spectrum with Eileen Lamb. Hey, Eileen.
Hey everyone, I'm Eileen Lamb, and in this podcast, we want to highlight real voices of autistic adults, not just inspirational stories, but real people talking about their boring life. Basically, we want to give a voice to people like us.
Today, our guest is Chloe Rothschild. Chloe is a young adult with autism who is on a mission to advocate and teach others about autism from her perspective. Chloe is one of the co-authors of my Interception Workbook for Teens, Adolescents, and Adults. She also serves on the ARC of the United States National Board and the Ohio Center for Autism and Low Incidence, also known as OCALI, Advisory Board. Chloe works as a teacher's aide at an autism school 3 days a week. When Chloe is not presenting or working, she enjoys spending time with her friends, family, participating in adaptive ice skating and dog agility for individuals with autism. So one of the first things that we like to ask our guests is how they prefer to be identified, she, her, and also if you have an identity language preference, person with autism, autistic, etc.
She, her, and either is fine with the other. I don't care.
Okay, so you posted an anonymous blog on Autism Speaks as someone who receives ABA. Why did you post anonymous then, and why are you comfortable sharing your story publicly now? We did offer you anonymity initially if you wanted to, but you said it was fine.
Because when I wrote that blog, I wanted to share my voice and my story about ABA, specifically my experience with it as an adult with autism. But a huge part of me was pretty fearful of what people might say because I've seen it and because this topic is such a sensitive one in the autism community. I was trying to protect myself from hateful comments and conflict. I know that those comments can be hard for me to read, so I was trying to prevent it. But after I posted that blog, I saw more and more being said about ABA, and I kind of couldn't be anonymous anymore because I just was so moved to tell my story and how it has positively impacted me. And I feel that's important. And I've been asked to participate in other projects, etc. And I just decided that this being anonymous thing wasn't going to last. So we might as well just end it.
I think it's so brave that you did that, because I know how hard it can be to be on social media reading those comments. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for posting about Charlie and ABA. I think that's what really got me going.
Oh, that's good to hear. I love your perspective because you're the adult, and you're in ABA, and you can tell it from your first person perspective, which is a criticism we hear a lot on social media. Is like, I don't want to hear from the parent. I want to hear from the person doing ABA, and that's what you have to give. And that's why I really love your story, and I'm so happy you're sharing it.
Now, I am somebody who has never been through ABA. I don't have a child who has been through ABA. And, trying to understand it, I've seen, two sides. I've seen complicated medical terminology. I think I got like a short book I tried to read when I was diagnosed to try to figure it out. I couldn't understand it that well. And that's one side. The side two is it's torturous gay conversion therapy, meant to make an autistic act neurotypical. But that doesn't necessarily explain what it is. So could you explain what ABA is from your perspective?
Yeah, from my perspective, it's definitely not trying to fix who I am. It's trying to make it so that I can live life to the fullest and be the most successful that I can be. It's not trying to fix or cure me at all in my experience. My BCBA and I have even talked about masking. She takes my concerns pretty highly and we talk about them. So for me, I kind of consider like a lot of the strategies that are used in ABA are used in everyday life, even for those that aren't autistic. For example, reinforcement. Well, when you work, you get paid. If you do something hard, chances are you may treat yourself to coffee if you're having a hard day or whatnot. So just like reinforcement's used in ABA, it's used for those without autism. And the antecedent behavior and consequence, that's used regardless. It's just the way of life.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think that's something a lot of people don't realize, that ABA is everywhere. Like a lot of our interactions in our daily life are not ABA based, but are something that you would see in ABA. You know, like smiling at someone is in a way like a positive reinforcement. And that's what's used in ABA. So you have been receiving ABA services for many years, and however, you were an advocate beforehand. Can you tell us what you felt you knew about ABA before receiving it?
Yeah, not super sure on this one, but I knew it could be helpful, but that it could also be controversial. After I exited school age services, I wanted a team who knew what they were doing. And I know sometimes adult services can be a little rocky. And I wanted someone who knew autism. So I exited school age services from an autism charter school, which had a BCBA on staff. I spent 2.5 years there. I didn't always agree with everything, but I learned a lot, and I think he did too. In my mind, an autism clinic meant they may understand a little better. And my ABA clinic is also a direct support service provider for the waiver in my state and my county for those with disabilities. So when I started, I worked on life skills and social skills, things like that. So my parents and I met with the BCBA, and it just clicked. It felt like it was the place for me. I felt like she got it after discussing with her, etc. I also love the staff I work with, and they're open to hearing my voice and opinions. And my autistic identity is respected. And I think it's important to note that I'm doing this because I love learning and making progress. I come home from the clinic or finish working with the therapist, and I'm so happy, and I look forward to them coming.
Mm. That's amazing to hear.
And I'm someone who was traumatized from a summer camp experience. So I think it's just important that we recognize that it can happen anywhere, and that individuals and their caregivers and guardians need to really look for signs that something's not right. And if something's not right, they need to take action. Like if the clinic won't let you observe pre-COVID and won't let you be involved, that should be a red light that something's wrong.
What other red flags can you think of?
If the individual comes home with marks and bruises, if plans are not being followed, lack of communication. Those are just some that I can think of off the top of my head. A therapist who's always on their phone, things like that. And I think it's important to note that it can be a clinic or a therapist that doesn't work for your family, but that's not just with ABA, that's with any kind of therapy or any kind of anything.
So how do you feel about the neurodiversity movement? And Eileen and I were having especially a lot of conversations about this over the past week, more so than even usual. And, do you think that, one can be positive about being autistic, choose to see the positives, yet at the same time, admit they need support? It seems like there has to be one side, and I feel like they're not mutually exclusive. Like, I can say that I see some parts as a strength, and I'm positive about myself and neurodiversity, but at the same time, I definitely need support too, and it's not all perfect. It's not the world's fault for being unable to accommodate me, right?
Yeah, I feel like the world has and society have a long way to go in terms of support. But I also feel like, and I'm grateful that I've been able to see it grow over the years, because when I was younger, there was next to nothing. I'm sure there was some, but it couldn't have been great. But I think for sure one can be positive. I think one can be positive about being autistic and still realistic and get and need support. It's not wrong to ask for help. After all, needing help and support is very human in nature, right? All humans need support of some kind to succeed, live, love their best life, and flourish. This isn't about fixing who one is, but it's about helping individuals be successful and getting whatever support they may need to do so. It's not about changing them, and it shouldn't be about changing them if it is. And whatever support this may be, let's not judge for what an individual and their team or their parents choose. Instead, we should just be supportive. I mean, if people don't ask our opinion, we shouldn't give it.
Yeah, that's, if you don't have anything nice to say,
just don't say it.
Right. Yeah, on social media, that's a hard rule to apply, but yeah, that would be ideal. I agree.
I have a friend who told me one thing, like, don't read the comments. Just don't.
I know, it's so hard.
I feel like that's something that's easier said than done,
yes,
right?
It's so hard. Like, even when I wrote that blog anonymously, I'm so guilty of still looking at the comments. So it really didn't matter that I published anonymously, because it defeated the purpose.
And this wasn't one of our questions, but were there any comments that stuck out to you, like a positive or negative?
Not specifically. I haven't looked back on it, but I will say, like, as I've shared my story more, like, people have been, even if they don't agree, I'm glad that we can respectfully disagree, and that they can at least agree on the fact that I'm just telling my personal story. I'm not taking a side for the whole world here, because I'm one person and I can't change everything.
Yeah, that's exactly how it should be. You're telling your story, you're talking for yourself, you're not speaking for the entire community, and you don't claim you are. And, if everyone was able to do what you do, tell their own story without trying to speak on behalf of the entire community, I think it would be a lot nicer. But unfortunately, we're not there.
And I think we also need to accept that things change with time.
Mm-hmm.
And it's no longer 1980s or 1990s. We're in 2022 and things are changing in a wide variety of fields. And we have to be open-minded to forgiving some things that happened in the past. And I know it's hard if you've been the one traumatized by it, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about those who haven't been.
Yeah. And there are a lot of people who haven't been in ABA and have very strong opinions about it.
I mean, I've seen people or parents or whoever post that they think ABA should be illegal.
Yeah. Yeah, it's torture.
Yeah, dog training, torture. And that stuff is hard to hear. And I will say, I've repeated back to my BCBA, you're the good ABA, right? Not the dog training. And it's so hard to even know that I know that and that I have to hear and read that. Although one would think when I see the trigger warning and it says ABA, I just keep scrolling, but that's totally not me.
So you're involved with some great organization. We're talking about OCALI before and National ARC Board. How
Yeah.
does being involved with the ARC impact your autism advocacy? Also, can you tell people what it stands for?
Well, we actually just go by the ARC, and we help individuals and their families with intellectual and developmental disabilities, but we are not an acronym now.
Huh.
And we have not been an acronym for at least the 2 to 3 years that I've been on the board.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
And that's because the acronym used to stand for something that, but things have changed, right? Organizations can change, right?
Yes. And I think they have. And I will say, I am not the only individual with a developmental disability on their board.
Okay, Andrew just told me what it used to be.
Yes. Now do you know why it's not that?
No. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, it was almost a trick question
Yes,
to
thanks for the
Eileen because
trap question.
I don't think she knew.
Yeah,
So, but the ARC, I mean, maybe it's part of, the advocacy of like you on the board. I've seen some other I've seen them sharing and doing lots of really great work. It really seems like, but, as you mentioned, the ARC has a lot of, intellectual developmental, again, there's more range of disabilities. So you're seeing let's call it like a wider range. Do you think that's influenced your perspective on support individuals might need?
Honestly, I think my perspective is a unique one that was kind of came about how I was raised. And from the beginning, I've been friends with individuals with various disabilities. And I know individuals who need a various range of support, and that's just been how it is. And in my mind, that's just how it works. Like, I don't think I know it any different.
Can you tell us about negative experiences you've had with ABA and what actions were taken to make things better? Like you were talking earlier about masking and how, you're upfront with your BCBA and all of that. So
yeah. So not really negative, but one time staffing didn't work. So we fixed it. The same thing with how a situation was handled, but it was immediately fixed and a plan was written up immediately. My BCBA hears my parents and values my opinions, and I'm really grateful for that. I just like change, and so sometimes I can be apprehensive, but I need to be pushed outside my comfort zone. So sometimes I may really dislike it at first, but eventually when we get the right tools and supports and accommodations in place, I usually end up turning around and doing okay. But when that doesn't happen, we think to ourselves, how can we make this better? I mean, misunderstandings sometimes can happen or communication errors, but sometimes some of that's life. We've adjusted and changed programs and added tools and supports as needed and listened to what I've had to say and compromised. We're teaching me how to say, hey, I need more support today, or can we compromise? So that's something that my BCBA really values teaching me and understands.
Now, and when I mean you, I mean like, so let's say me, right? Or just like, an individual. So you were diagnosed when you were younger. Like you said, you didn't know any different. And I mean, on one hand, I didn't know any different. But then I kind of learned there's definitely a different experience, being diagnosed as an adult versus younger. And when you're diagnosed as an adult, you're looking for a community. who's like you. And there was recently somebody I respected who said, but I never see anything positive about ABA, right? And they said, I've never spoken to anyone who had a positive experience. And, it was a smart, professional woman. And so why do you think there is so little, easy to read, like one of my first questions, information about ABA, out there? Why is it, an adult is diagnosed and, the only information they find is negative if there are positives to it?
I think some of it has to do with the fact that when that a lot of individuals did it when they were younger, and right now, a lot of times when we think ABA, we tend to think as a society, preschool or early intervention. So that would mean that these individuals received it so long ago, and I feel like maybe different approaches, maybe than what are being done now, were done. Therefore, it's more negative. And some of these adults who've had positive experiences may not write about it, may not be able to write about it, etc. So for a variety of reasons. And yeah.
Well, we appreciate you. We know how hard it was to be able to speak about it, to be able to write about it, and be able to talk for the people who, can't or, find it very difficult.
And I think maybe not many people have done it as an adult yet, because I will say it's super hard to find a provider who knows how to work with adults, or who's even willing to work with adults. In my town, my BCBA is, her mom and pop clinic is the only one, and it was not what she really started doing, but now she has 3 adults that she's supporting.
No, that's so cool.
And it kind of began with me, but I love that she's doing it because it was much needed. We have 3 or 4 programs that support under the age of 6, or one that supports up into the teens, but there is no ABA program locally besides her little clinic that can only support so many individuals that will consider supporting an adult, which is kind of hard.
Yeah, no, you're right. It's I feel like in big cities, for instance, where I am in Austin, in Texas, there are so many ABA providers, but I hear from some of my followers who are like in smaller cities, and it's like incredibly hard to find a place, and then to find a good place, and then to find a place without a 2-year waiting list, basically, in some of these.
But I will say that for adults, like my experience finding a place, an occupational therapist took 2 years for someone who would work with an adult. So it's not just ABA that's hard to come by. It's anything, because after pediatrics at this point, we are not yet in a place where we realize that individuals with autism still need the similar supports to when they were younger, at a time when their world is like changing the most.
Yeah, I think that's something that we should advocate for, more accessible therapies for adults.
And doctors, I mean, individuals with autism deserve healthcare.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we do. We sure do.
And a healthcare that is quality, and someone that understands, not someone who you walk in and they're completely clueless.
So here is one of my concern about ABA. It's that, we see ABA everywhere, right? And it's not going away. But I'm afraid that all of the nice people are, and the caring individual are seeing all that's being said on social media, and that they are just not gonna want to choose a career in ABA because of everything they see, and how ABA is torture and this or that. And I feel like as a community, we are in danger of creating a self-fulfilling prophecy, meaning like we're gonna make that happen with how we're acting towards ABA.
That makes sense. And I also worry about the messages that we may be sending to families who are newly diagnosed or individuals who may be thinking about ABA, because now we have them scared of it. But I also think that many different protocols can be used when doing ABA, and it's not a one size fits all necessarily.
It's not, definitely.
So how can we bring the community closer together? The way I feel is a therapy that has obviously helped you. When I'm working with clients, again, financially, I talk about what something does for somebody, not what something is. The three of us were in a group together for some research, something unrelated. And I believe somebody in the group was not I had a belief that they would not have been a fan of ABA. And when you explained it, you're like, oh, the person, no, that makes sense. So I think it's, how do we get over what something's called versus, what something does for you, because that should matter more than the acronyms. But, Medicaid and insurance don't share in those opinions, right? It's not as simple to just change that, as I'm sure with a lot of the advocacy work that you do.
Some of this, sometimes you have to play the name game to get what you need covered. And it's sad. It shouldn't be that way, but I don't care what it's called. But if it's helpful, I want it covered. And it's unfortunate to me that other things that help individuals with autism and other therapeutic approaches like floor time or I'm trying to think of some of the others, floor time, teach, the play project, may not be covered under insurance and likely aren't. But like one person can't really change that. But I just think the service area is changing though, maybe. And I just want people to give whatever may help their loved ones a chance and be on the lookout and advocate, but also give things a chance for perhaps something may help support them and change their lives positively. And it may not. And don't be afraid to say, I'm done, it's not working. And this is for any kind of therapy, for whatever it's called. As a parent and or self-advocate, don't hesitate to be involved. In fact, please be involved.
Yeah, it's one of the best advice you can give parents. Be involved. If you see something you don't like, speak up. If you see something you like, communicate it so it keeps happening. And,
because if you see something you don't like and you don't speak up, it's going to keep happening.
Yeah. I know it seems so simple, right? But it's really, really important. Why don't you tell us some things that ABA has helped you with?
ABA has helped lessen my amount of interruptions. It really helped pick up the pieces after the COVID pandemic, getting me back waiting in lines in the community. And when we teach me to wait, we did not expect me to sit there still. It was okay if I played with a toy or two toys. In fact, one of my favorite pictures that one of the therapists took is me, and I think it's actually the one that we used, that I used for the blog I wrote, but it's me with two My Little Ponies on top of a trick cereal box. and I was acting out some script with the ponies. But guess what? That day I waited 10 minutes to have my groceries rain up. So we don't expect it to be done in a typical way, whatever typical means, but just whatever it can be. We're working now on strategies for perseveration. I've worked on leisure skills and broadening the things I like, or try, but that doesn't mean that we take away what I like or what I choose. Like last week, I chose to work for the Laugh and Learn Fisher-Price Lantern, and we're okay with that. But we have also exposed me to things like origami. What else have we? Latch hooking. Other things like that, just so I have the exposure. And should I ever want to strike up a conversation with someone on that topic? But we respect what I like. We've also worked on conversational skills, and things like that. I'm trying to think what else we've flexibility. When I first started this journey, if something changed, it was not okay. If they moved the table, it was, I would point it out to you. Recently, they moved the mailboxes and at the clinic, and literally, I think it may be one of the first pieces of furniture or toy that's been moved that I did not comment about in 7 years. And some of it's been finding a way to communicate and get the point across to me. For example, if I'm really upset, having a whole conversation with me will not work. But if you say, is this a box 1 or box 2 issue? Chances are I will tell you, box 2, all I can control is my own behavior. Because we have just drilled box 1 and box 2 into my brain to that point where it's something I understand.
Question for you. So you've been advocating for, a long time.
10 years.
That's a long time.
I know.
And you've been also, again, you've known well before that, right? And
I've received special education since I was like 4.5.
So how do you feel about, somebody who's recently diagnosed as of, a week ago, maybe a couple months ago, who then starts making TikTok videos or YouTube channel or, starts to, quote, advocate for autism? Do you think there should be what I consider like a waiting period where, when somebody's newly diagnosed, they should find somebody like you and learn from someone like you? Because yes, they've been autistic their whole life, but they still have a lot to learn.
I kind of feel like, and some of this is just kind of the way I am, but the more the merrier, and welcome aboard, come be a part of the community, but that we all need to be a part of a community. We can't just take over.
Yeah.
And what advice could you give to somebody to help them, maybe they don't feel like they're taking over? How can they be a part of the community?
Connect with others who are on social media, and connect with others who have been advocating. And
like the Facebook group Autism and Inclusivity, right, Chloe?
Yeah.
That's sarcasm. I'm totally joking.
Can you tell people, that's optional, but if people want to find you on social media, if you tell them where they can find you.
So I did not think this through very hard, and maybe you know how to change it because you just did. We'll talk later, but I'm on Facebook as Chloe Rothschild, and it's a public figure page, and I'm in a black shirt. Again, it's a page, not a public profile, because I named them the same thing without thinking.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. That's same with me. My page is Eileen Lamb on Facebook, and my personal profile is Eileen Lamb too. So I get it.
Yeah, well, nothing like presenting for a group of 500 and then you have like all these friend requests.
Yeah.
I'm also on Instagram at, I'm gonna have to look it up because I just made a public account this weekend.
Oh, and we can put the links in the podcast episode, so don't worry about that.
And I am not as good as Eileen on social media, like not even close.
No, nobody is. So
I know. It's Chloe Fidget Finds.
I like it.
Well, part of it happened because, I also have a website, Chloe Rothschild ASD.com. But I'm kind of awful at updating the website. So there's that.
I feel you.
Part of the fidget finds came to be because I love YouTube, as I'm sure your kids do too, Elaine.
Mm-hmm.
And I started watching and loving people shopping for fidgets, people doing fidget challenges, people testing fidget challenges. And my dad said to me, like, why are these people the ones reviewing these fidgets? When literally I've used the fidget for the past at least 20 years. And so I finally started reaching out to some companies like, hey, can I try this for you? Like, if we want to test durability, man, I will tell you, like, it's only a matter of time before this guy gets broken. But this guy, I don't think there's a way that I can break him.
You're an expert. No, I think it's a good.
I'm sure you've seen it with Charlie. Some of them he can bust.
Oh yeah, some toys last 30 minutes and
yeah, like 30 minutes and there's goo everywhere.
Yeah, super hard to clean. Yeah, yep. Yeah, that's.
You need to check out Foam Alive. Playvision sent me some, and I was super into it. And it reminds me of one of the messy activities that Charlie would like.
Some Alive.
Foam Alive. FOAM.
Oh.
And it comes in different colors, and it's like a foamy texture, but it kind of like say it like moves.
You know what? I have one downstairs that's unopened that I haven't opened yet because I didn't know if it was gonna get everywhere or what.
It could get everywhere, but do you have one of those like sensory tray things?
Yeah, we used to. We don't anymore, but yeah.
Okay. They even have them like, I think mine came from like Michael's, but you're probably not going to get them to contain it in there.
No. So it's like outdoor activity.
One thing that I tried that was super messy is Pluffle. It's by the people who make play foam. It literally got everywhere. Like everywhere.
Was it fun?
Not fun enough, but this Foam Alive was super easy cleanup.
Oh, that's good.
But then again, I kept it on the tray, which I know he wouldn't do.
A good idea for you for your page. You should have several criteria when you review toys, like to clean, yes, no, and durability. All of that. And for each toy, that way people and then you can make like a stretch. Okay, I'm getting super technical, but yeah. No,
that would be super cool, except I would have to have like the executive functioning skills to do that.
All right, time for the quick fire questions. So I'm going to ask you a question and you tell me the first answer that comes to your mind. So what is your favorite food or drink?
Cupcake.
If you could be any animal, fictional or real, what would you choose and why?
Unicorn, because they're magical.
I had a feeling. What is your special interest?
This one's hard. Autism or Disney Frozen, maybe.
That's good.
I definitely like Frozen, but I could definitely talk to you autism like all day.
What's your
So is
favorite?
Elsa autistic?
I don't know. I've read some of that, but yeah, I don't know.
Do you have a favorite quote or saying, and what is the quote and who said it?
Not that I can quick fire. Or maybe the one that I had a doctor tell me that when I reached outside my comfort zone is when the best things happen. That wasn't the exact quote. I don't know what it was.
That's good though. Yeah, we'll take it. Well, Chloe, thank you so much for joining us today. It was amazing talking to you, and it's brave to do it with your name.
Thank you. Remind me of that when the comments come out.
Oh yeah, we will.